What's going on, you guys? It's your Huggable Hipster here, and welcome back to today's video. Today, I'm going to be discussing with you guys why it is so important to talk to NPCs in Dark Souls. And also, I'll be talking about why you shouldn't aggro them because, someone brought that up on my Twitter, and I just want to teach you guys not to make the same mistakes I've made. This is primarily a topic for the Dark Souls games. With NPCs in Bloodborne and everything like that, it's not as much aggroing them as you just don't want to kill them. There's just some NPCs you just don't want to aggro, okay, and one of them being Voltaire from Bloodborne, because that's how you end up getting the purity rune, and then if you kill him without getting it, you lose one of the most valuable NPCs that you can partner up with for the DLC. So now that I've covered my mistakes with you guys, which I'm going to do more of in this video, let's get into why it is so important to talk to the NPCs in Dark Souls games. Okay, so reason number one, I got too close to the bonfire again. Reason number one is that it's the story. You want to be able to get as much information as possible with as little time as you have with these guys, because sometimes the NPCs will just straight up disappear and you don't have a chance to talk to them anymore, especially when you get in the beginning of the game. There's NPCs when you're in the dungeon, there's NPCs in Firelink Shrine, they're everywhere. The story, I think, is one of the best parts of Dark Souls games because it's the first time where I think a non-linear story works absolutely perfectly. Now, with there being several ways you can get to your end goal in Dark Souls games, there are multitudes of stories within this that lead up to a final point. Like, for example, there is a character, Solaire of Astora. Praise the sun. You don't want to kill him. I made the very sorry mistake of killing him because I did not know how important he was to the story, because I saw the Praise the Sun memes and I had no idea that that was Dark Souls until I actually went and played said Dark Souls. Whenever I killed him, oh man, the amount of guilt I felt after that, after realizing who it was, oh man, I couldn't sleep. That's a lie, I slept perfectly fine, but be that as it may, I still felt awful in the moment. Now, the Crestfallen Warrior, you don't want to worry too much about this guy, okay? Don't worry. He kind of goes cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs anyway, and he turns into a hollow, basically. And the thing is that we're already dead inside, okay? We don't need to worry about anyone else's journey besides our own. Now, as the chosen undead, we are meant to rekindle the first flame or usher man into the age of darkness. Now, I'm skipping ahead of myself a little bit over here, but with the story, when you get to Anor Londo, this is where you kind of see the where the game becomes a little bit more subjective, and you see NPCs like the first ever Lady Double D. If you know, you know. And with being in Anor Londo, you get a concept of, oh, this was all fake. Because when it comes down to it, the light that surrounds Anor Londo is a mirage. Guinevere, who is basically cloaking the entire world in light because she wants people to feel happy. But when it's all a disguise in reality. So you have to kind of understand that, oh, this is all a lie. This is all not supposed to be what it is. If you actually, if you kill Guinevere, it goes to the actual state of what the world really is. Because the reason is that, it's not only the NPCs, it's not only the bosses, it's not only when you defeat the bosses and you look at the items that you get from them. That's the whole story of the game. So it's not just laid out in notes and, in cutscenes or anything like that. Believe it or not, the cutscenes are very they're to the point. They're there, they are what they are, but they don't offer anything to give you an inkling into much of the story besides things that you can probably gather, on your own. I don't necessarily know how to describe the cutscenes because they're very abstract, because in the world of Dark Souls, you don't get a typical cutscene where you have characters interacting and you have a flow of a linear story. It's more like, here's a piece of a puzzle, you gotta put these pieces together on your own. So when it comes to certain parts of the game, Artorias of the Abyss, for example, when you look at his sword and you see the description of the sword, and then you see different pieces of the story through other optional bosses, you gotta put the pieces together and how these characters interacted with the world before they turned to darkness or before they turned hollow. Like with the Abyss, that could be represented as the darkness of mankind. So when you look at different things in a more philosophical and psychological lens, it airs on the fact of that this story is an abstract art piece. It's not something that is shown right in front of you and you take it for what it is and that's it. No, it's something of where you really have to discern for yourself, okay, this is this part of the story and this is what it means for me as the player. But there are pieces of the story that are canon and they are part of the world no matter how you swing it. So, there are pieces that are more philosophical and psychological, and then there are the pieces that are canon and that's it. They're part of the story and that's how Miyazaki wrote it and did it. Also, by the way, I know he's an annoying NPC, but please don't kill Patches, okay? Please, okay? He's annoying, I know, but there's a place in my heart for Patches, okay? He may have killed us. He may have done a lot of things to us. He also appears in Bloodborne, by the way. Just want to put that out there. He's a very important character to the lore, and as just an NPC as a whole, he's a very important character. So please don't kill Patches. Now, I am going to give you a bit of a spoiler because you guys are probably playing Dark Souls right now thinking, what is that snoring that I hear in Firelink Shrine? What is that god-awful old man snoring that I hear in Firelink Shrine? It is Kingseeker Frompt. I know. Sorry, Dark Souls community. I had to tell them, okay? Kingseeker Frompt is one of those characters that tells you right away. Okay, I should rephrase that. It doesn't tell you in the story with it tells you right away that the game is very subjective, because you can either follow him, right? Follow his storyline. You have to get the Lord Souls anyway, but you get the Lord Souls and you trust Frompt. Now, there is an alter ego kind of Frompt. Okay, there's a darker version of him, I will say, of where you follow him into leading into the Age of Darkness, if that makes sense. There's two versions of him. If you go further enough into the Abyss, I think it's after you fight a certain boss. I think it's after the Four Kings. I could be mistaken. I haven't played Dark Souls since last year. And I think it's after you beat the Four Kings, you continuously go into the darkness, and there's another version of Frompt that you can meet. And I actually went in and I saw this version of Frompt, and it's really interesting. It's very, very interesting because he will say that no, the other Frompt is a complete liar and you should not believe him. This Frompt, apparently that, this one I'm telling the truth. Like, he's just using you to get the Lord's souls so it can be ushered into the age of man, into the age of light. And the light, as we know, it's just a facade. It's not real. It's not something that is actually going to happen, because the age of darkness, regardless, age of man, is going to be coming regardless. So Frompt is another NPC that has two sides to his coin. It's a two-faced kind of deal here, of where, on one side you have one version of him that does this, and on another side you have another version of him that does this. So that's another thing of why you want to really talk to NPCs. You really want to be able to search every nook and cranny of this game. There's so many different NPCs that you can chat with and you can, vibe with, and you can really see how the story flows. Please, again, I will remind you guys, when you're diving into Dark Souls, don't forget to read the items. Read the description of the items. For the love of God, by the way, before I go, do not aggro the blacksmith. Okay, I didn't aggro him. I saw someone who did, and that guy's like a fighting champion, so please do not aggro him. But yeah, with that being said, if you guys like my face and what I do, please be sure to subscribe and hit that bell down below. I make videos every day here on YouTube, and may you find your worth in the waking world, dear hunter. Stay casually nerdy, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, you guys.